Good morning, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day so far. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on our Angelo HD over Coax, pretty much mastering the cameras. My name is Ken Miguel, sales manager. Here with me today is Mr. Michael Lugo. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ken. Thank you for asking.
Great day for a webinar.
Yeah, it is.
Guys, if you guys don't know, we're in California and it's about 115 degrees here and it's really hot. So hopefully our AC is going to keep us cool here. Today's webinar is brought to you, of course, by Bolite Technology Group with over 20 years of experience in security. We only manufacture the latest and greatest, most innovative video surveillance solutions from IP to NVRs, enterprise level recorders to your HD over Coax cameras, DVRs, and all the accessories that can be involved in CCTV. Of course, we're an ISO certified company. We also have a GSA schedule for video surveillance as a preferred vendor. So let's jump right in. So in this webinar, we are going over, of course, all the features and functions of our Angelo HD over Coax cameras. We're going over, a couple of features, streams, what happens when you adjust the lens, all the features that you can unlock via what we call the quick switch, how it works over the coax, and optimization. Now, what we consider a great camera line, of course, is a complete line. This line is very complete, from your indoor eyeballs to varifocal vandal-proof domes to bullets. We even have a long-range lens bullet and a pinhole camera. So this line has all the styles that you want. Of course, what makes a great camera line is versatility. I'll tell you guys, if you guys have not used this line for your installations, they're great. I mean, they're high def, they're hybrid. They can turn to analog cameras, essentially. Our DVRs have automatic port forwarding, which is convenient for the installer. It really gets you in and out of your installs, quickly. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to type in the questions box right there. Actually, we have a question right now. Do we have a PTZ? Yes, I apologize. I missed. We have a 10 times zoom PTZ camera with IR. Okay, great camera. Again, we're talking about versatility. So these cameras, have been used from what we see from residential installs. We have kits that are sold primarily to that market, and all the way up really to any commercial, any demanding, could be outdoor, indoor application. It doesn't really matter. And the cameras out of the box, they're great. Picture quality is great. But you guys may not know, and that's why we're doing this webinar, is there's actually a lot of things you can adjust with these cameras to really retrofit them and make them fit a particular light scenario or a particular application perfectly. Okay. And Mike's going to help me explain how to get through the menu, which menu to turn on and off, and what result you get from enabling certain features in these cameras. Okay, so we'll start with the lens. Again, all these features are unlocked by the camera, either the lens adjustment, or there's a switch on every camera that we call quick switch, and that's how you access the on-screen menu that shows you all the features. Okay, so this is fairly basic, but you want to mention varifocal lens?
Sure. So as you can see here, this is a perfect situation where the varifocal lens comes in to play. The first picture shows that you can see the car is quite clear, but if you want to catch a license plate, here's where that 6-60 varifocal lens gets right up in there, and it's a very clear picture. No doubt about, you can see what that license plate says.
Okay, so we have this particular line, we have a 2.8 to 12 millimeter varifocal lens. However, and we get asked, oh, I have a car and I want to see the plate from 40, 50 feet out. What's my solution? Well, these cameras are high def, so you'll really get, really see details. But we have that 6 to 60 millimeter bullet that will do the job for that type of distance.
So here's another shot. We talked about that 2.8 to 12 millimeter lens. It's not as quite of a zoom, but you're still able to see some license plate. You'll be able to see faces, no problem. It's a very clear picture. And this is another camera and its varifocal capability.
So this is the left is a wide angle, and the right is that zoomed all the way?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these cameras have a 1/3 inch image sensor, so you do get a wider angle view. All right, digital zoom. So we get asked in comparing analog resolution versus IP versus high def over coax. A lot of guys are wondering, what happens when you digitally zoom into the image? Will it pixelate? Will it retain detail? What's going to happen? And you're looking at here is what?
So basically what a digital zoom is, it's taking the entire image, cropping out a section of it, and zooming into that part. So there is some loss of pixelation, but as you can see here, it comes in handy when you might not have a varifocal lens on the camera itself, or you might have it and need to go just a little bit more. Digital zoom can be your best friend.
Yeah.
The pictures here indicate a regular image, and then the image zoomed in. You can see there's not much picture loss. It's pixelization. It's still a very clear picture.
Yeah, and this is really why you want to upgrade from analog, because the digital zoom, you still retain details and be able to read letters and see colors accurately, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about streams. So go ahead, Mike.
So streams, very important. A lot of times we forget that we have streams on our DVR. You can see here in this picture, this is stream 1. It's a 6 millimeter lens at D1, as opposed to your second stream. I'm sorry, those are actually reversed. The second stream should be on the other side. But the 1080p picture, it's still a very clear picture, as opposed to the D1. You're not losing much. On a smaller scale on your phone, you're not going to see much picture loss. So use your stream 1, use your stream 2 as needed.
So this is on the DVR, right? Not the camera.
This is on the DVR, but this is the camera's
There's a mainstream and then there's a substream. Of course, your mainstream is maxed out at 1080.
Which is your record stream, yeah.
Record stream. And there's a substream for transmission.
Yeah.
So if you guys are viewing the cameras on your phone, by default, you're seeing the substream, but you can switch it to mainstream if your internet, of course, or your Wi-Fi is fast enough to stream it smoothly, correct?
This is another picture of the different streams. I just want you guys to get a feel of what the camera's capabilities are. That stream 2 is not all that bad, because it's a lower stream doesn't mean it's a bad picture.
Okay, so let's jump straight to the quick switch. So this switch, it can be found about 6 inches away from the camera as a part of the cord. So this is in between the camera itself and the outputs. And it does a lot. Okay, number one, I mentioned hybrid functionality. You hold it and flip this switch to the left, and it turns the camera into an analog camera. Okay. So why is this a significant feature? Let's say the installer, you guys have an analog system from years ago. You know, one of the cameras broke down and you need to replace it. You can't put a high def camera there. So what do? What if you only have an Angelo HD camera in stock? Well, you can use it as an analog camera, right? So at the same time, the same camera, you flip to the right and it turns to a high def camera. So you guys might want to sell this as a high def camera anyway, but you do have capability to sell it as an analog. Okay, here's just comparison. This is analog versus, in this case, 720p high def. As you can see, the analog image, it's stretched out. It's maybe 5 years ago that was a good picture, but not anymore. Today is all about high def, and high def is what we're giving you.
So here on as you can see on the cord, there's multiple ways, as Ken talked about, holding it to the left. You're going to get the analog. Holding it to the right, you'll get that high def. But what if you push it down? Pushing the down on the actual stick brings up your OSD. What is the OSD? We call it the quick switch. And it has things like lens, adjustment, exposure, backlight, white balance, day-night mode, special, and of course other things. And we're going to go into each and every option and function that it has and explain what it does and how you do it quite extensively. So one special thing about our newest line is control over coax. If you guys don't know what that is, we've talked about the quick switch. We've talked about how you have to push down on the switch to bring up the menu. What we've now incorporated into the DVRs and the cameras is control over coax. We're now able to access that OSD away from the quick switch. You can do it through the DVRs, through your mouse, and go ahead and pull up all the features, all the functions, PTZ control. We have soon coming out some zoom lenses that we'll be able to control all from the DVR. You can now go install the camera and not have to worry about going back and hitting that switch to make adjustments. So this is pretty exciting. So
we're jumping right into the menus. So when you press the quick switch, you will see the main menu, and these are the first things that you'll see on your screen.
So we'll go over each one. Lens, there's not really much there. It just tells you what the lens is. But the next one is exposure, and that's pretty important. The menu looks similar to this.
That's the main menu, right?
This is the main menu. It looks similar to this. As you can see, there's a little, it's actually an enter button or icon at the end of exposure. That means you can hold down and there's a sub-menu within that. And just really quick background what exposure actually is. It's the amount of light per unit in an area. So the luminance times the exposure time reaches an electronic image sensor, and that determined by your shutter speed, your lens aperture, and your screen luminance. Exposure has all these functions within it. We'll go through each one. First one is shutter speed.
So when you press exposure, this is the menu that you're going to see.
Yeah.
So what's the use of just changing the shutter speed?
Good question. So shutter speed is also known as exposure time. And it stands for the length of time that a camera's shutter is open to expose light into the camera sensor. What does that mean, though? So normally IR cameras have an automatic shutter speed of 1/60th to 100,000. So which can cause a trailing effect. As you can see in the image below, not able to catch any of that because it's just going by so fast. It's nighttime. You can't see anything that's going on. A normal LPR camera speed is much slower, so it's able to take that light in and render a picture.
If you guys are not aware, license plate cameras, really the only difference between those and a traditional camera is having adjustable or intelligent shutter speed. So you can replicate the same effect using the Angelo HD, because we do get asked, hey, I have a license plate application, or could be like a parking lot and an apartment complex, like a toll gate, and you want to see plates. Adjusting the shutter speed, will get you the result you want.
So we're talking about light. Now we're talking about the actual image itself traveling. As you can see in the diagram or the picture below, the different speeds adjusting for actually capturing the image. It's a major option on a camera that it's not just for license plates, but cars going by quickly at the same time, people walking by quickly. This is an option that you can take into consideration when installing these cameras.
What are you looking at here?
So this is basically how fast the image is actually going by. The shutter speed is actually going to be able to capture the image, and you're not going to get a blur effect.
Okay, so you'll have, well, for cameras, it's important to have that one still shot with a plate, and you can read it.
Yeah, if you go back and you don't have that shutter speed adjusted, you're not going to be able to see that image. So the next option is AGC. What does that stand for? Automatic Gain Control. Basically, this allows you to boost the light in a low light condition. Conventional camera on the left, can hardly see anything. On the right, with the automatic gain control enabled, it gives you a little more light. And we'll go over each of these exposure options. Will just enhance the light a little more, and you'll be able to see a better picture. Sense up.
As far as application-wise, why would you need to adjust your gain control?
Certain situations, they might not want an IR on in the room because it does have the red lights. They might want the camera to just be displayed as a black camera. In this situation, the little light that's there, it's going to pick up that light and give you some picture. Of course, if the IRs are on the camera, then you're not going to have to worry about that. But this is just another option. Gives you more options in certain situations. Every situation is different.
All right. So these cameras have built-in sense up?
Sense up.
Yeah. Again, there's cameras that are sold as sense up out there, and these camera line have actual built-in sense up.
Correct. And you can increase, times 2, times 4, and so forth. What is sense up? Sense up is low light conditions again.
Or you guys might know this as starlight.
Exactly. It's another word for it. So here's a good sense up image. There's a lot of distortion, not a lot of light in the conventional camera. It's hard to see. With sense up on, it clears up, intensifies that light, and makes it seem like there's a lot more light than really is there.
So as far as real life application, will this lower the lux level before the IRs engage?
So no, because the IRs are not even on yet. So this is going to give you light in low light conditions. When there's no light, then your IRs will kick on. So this is before you actually get there.
So your picture will look brighter.
Correct.
Okay.
So what about high light conditions?
So you guys might have heard of wide dynamic range cameras, WDR. Again, cameras are sold just for this function, but again, the Angelo HD has a digital version of wide dynamic range built in, right? So
what is that? It's basically a software-based technique to optimize the image rather than the traditional WDR. It adjusts the gamma and enhances dark areas. Here's a perfect example of WDR. Banks are probably number one getting these at the ATM, but there's a major difference in the way the camera takes in light.
So if you need a camera, for example, a hotel lobby facing, a glass door, and anybody, anytime a client enters or exits, you just see, just extreme amount of light coming in. This will enhance the picture. Also windows, things like that. Banks that traditionally have, glass windows. This is a great solution. Keep in mind as well, our pinhole Angelo HD has a mechanical WDR built in. Those cameras we have installed in ATMs, things like that.
And it is quite a difference, mechanical and digital, but it's still a plus to have the digital on the camera. Believe me, it's a major help in these conditions.
Yeah. But again, this is already built in, so you're not actually paying for this. It's already included with what you already use.
So if anybody was familiar with OSD inside the Angelo, you might have seen defog. What does that mean? So it's also known as dehazing. Basically takes the image using filtering or adjusting contrast to get a clearer picture. Here's a perfect example of a foggy day, and the image you can see is just totally almost grayed out because of the fog. What the defogging will do is adjust that picture. Now you have a way clearer picture than you had originally because of the defog function.
What about up close?
Same as up close. You're going to get, it's going to take away that haze, that fog. Maybe it's there's steam in the room. It digitally does it, so it's a little different than it not actually removing the.
I got a question here. First of all, I love the Angelo HD cameras. Thanks. I have installed several of these cameras out of the box and did not change anything on the menu. Am I still getting the best picture?
You are getting the best picture
out of the box.
Out of the box, you're going to get the best picture. But like we talked about, there's different situations. There might be glare. There might be, high light conditions, low light conditions, and that's when the functions on the camera come into play. You are going to get the best picture. Mind you, if it's a varifocal, it might not be zoomed or wide enough. You might have to adjust that. But out of the box, it's pretty optimal.
Yeah, they look great.
So we went through exposure. Now we're going to go through backlight. Backlight goes hand in hand with WDR and some of the other functions that we went through. So the backlight compensation optimizes the exposure in the foreground and the background of security video. It splits the video into different regions rather than just the whole picture. And let's go into that. So this is what your backlight compensation menu is going to look like. You can adjust how much you want it to compensate, the area, so you can move the white outed square, you can move it around the entire picture. So like I said earlier, it goes hand in hand with WDR and some of the other functions. The first picture is a regular camera. The second one has the backlight compensation enabled. You see a much clearer picture along in hand with the WDR. That picture is very clear. So
you want to enable both backlight or
correct.
Turn it up as well as turn on your wide dynamic range.
Correct. And you'll get an even better picture. So you might have to move, you might want to move, the actual area of compensation around. You might want the whole thing to be enabled. You're able to do that with this function. So white balance also goes hand in hand with backlight compensation and WDR. What is white balance? It's a process of removing unrealistic colors that casts an object which should appear white. So what does that mean? For the first thing is you can adjust if it's an indoor, outdoor. You can have it on auto, which it'll compensate for whatever light conditions are, or you can do a manual moving. So white balance, you can do from the blue spectrum, the red spectrum, adjust it to get a real image of white. And you can see it goes from red to blue. And you want to adjust so you get that white image. You can see the one almost second to last. You're getting a white. It's not red. It's not blue. You can actually see the sign under the flag as white.
Can you screw this up?
You can. You can. So you want to make sure that you're doing it it's supposed to be for real life whiteness. You want to actually match it to what you actually see with your own eyes.
Yeah. Well, you can always reset it, but if you're not sure, leave it alone. If the picture looks great, leave it alone.
Day-night mode.
So day-night function allows you to fine-tune the day and night transition from color to black and white and vice versa.
What does that mean? So day and night function, the main function in it is setting the delay and other functions that adapt to light conditions as the day passes. As you can see that we went over the automatic gain control, the delay of actual transition from day to night and night to day, both. So you're able to, in essence, if it's getting dark and the IRs are kicking on before you want them to, you can set that delay to maybe another 30 minutes. And it'll take longer for it to transition into night mode.
Do you lower your
lower
the day night or
so depending on if you want to go to day to night or night to day, you would enhance or up the number, increasing the delay.
Okay. Can you pair up this and Starlight?
Yes. So all of these functions can be paired together. It's not just if you turn one, it's going to automatically turn the other one off. You can use them individually. You can use them together. Of course, the more you use together, you're going to get a better image. You could more fine-tune the image, and that's why we incorporated all these options into the camera. So NR. What is NR? Noise reduction. 2D and 3D. I'm pretty sure the average person is not really familiar with what that even means. So 2D NR, which is two-dimensional noise reduction. That works by analyzing individual frames of video, identifying and correcting pixels that represent noise, which is fuzz. How does 3D NR work? Well, it analyzes difference between successive frames and actually apply it to each other and to see what's wrong and what's not. So when you put them together, you get an image similar to this. A lot of the noise is removed. You're able to get a very clear picture, no fuzz. So this is some cameras have 2D, some cameras have 3D. We have both. You put them both together and you get a very clear picture.
So are you, out of the box, is it pretty much good to go?
So out of the box, for the most part, a lot of these functions are disabled just because of how you want to fine tune them. It is a clear picture out of the box. Like I said, different situations have different applications and some of these things need to be turned on. Sometimes you don't. You get a clear picture. You don't need the noise reduction if there's no noise.
So, yeah, I mean, what it could cause? I mean, as far as common installations, like residential or like an
interference, light conditions, things like that. It'll adjust those pixels and it's all digital, so it's digital enhancements. That's the key of going digital. So next.
Special functions.
Special. Now special has a lot of functions. A lot of you might be unfamiliar with or even think why those options are even in these cameras. And the first one's going to be D effect. Aside from camera title, is pretty self-explanatory. So D effect, what does that mean? Digital effect.
Well, camera title is important.
It is important. It's very important.
You name the camera from the camera end, right?
Very important. Yeah.
So if you switch this to analog mode and then plug it to, let's say, a public view monitor, not a DVR, but PVM, you can actually display a name for the camera.
Correct.
And it will show on the monitor.
Correct. Yep. So inside D effect or digital effect, you can do things like freeze the image, mirror the image. You can do a flip.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys that love this because certain scenarios where it's hard to find an angle to install the cameras, you can do a digital flip, vertical or horizontal. Yeah.
The next one is negative imaging. This is good for nighttime license plate recognition. Even daytime, you can see how that license plate just pops. There's no doubt about it. You know what it is. You can read it very clearly. This is a function that is in every single camera, as well as the 6 to 60. Yeah, I recommend you guys take advantage of this function.
Well, it does stay in black and white. So if you're going to use a negative image, and you might want another camera looking at the same space in color, but This is, if you guys notice that screenshot, negative image allows you to read the plates as well. So this could be used for a license plate application as well.
And another thing is, like we talked about now, you could control this from the DVR. Prior, you had to go all the way back to the quick switch to change this function. You don't have to do that no more.
Yeah. Going back to license plate applications, what we get asked a lot about license plate application. As far as distance, you want to be, unless you have the 60 millimeter lens, you want to be under 20 feet away from the vehicle, right?
Yes.
You don't want to be too far.
Correct.
You don't want to depend on digital zoom for a license plate application. It just
very important.
It just doesn't work that way.
Very important, yes. So motion. Why is there motion on the camera if the DVR does it? This allows you to have somewhat of a fail-safe to know that the camera is going to detect motion. How does the DVR detect motion? Through pixelization. As the pixels move, it detects motion. And we don't have live video. I wish I could show you guys a live video of how the camera does it. You actually see the pixelization moving through the squares. It's pretty interesting. But like I said, it's a fail-safe in the DVR to make sure you're going to capture motion.
Why would you need motion area? The DVR already has motion areas.
Yeah, so it is a fail-safe. Like I said, it's a fail-safe, and you can get it better into one particular area rather than, as you can do with the DVR, but it just enhances the whole motion detection.
And you can do 4 motion areas. Right?
Motion, and you can increase those. You can see there the display, sensitivity. You can change the color so you know what is what. And you can also set to the alarms that the DVR has as well. Here's the positions. You can move them around. And then also increase the size. Privacy. Again, also on the DVR. This is pretty cool. This one gives you a couple different ways to block out the privacy. This is the mosaic function. You can see the bottom right pictures pixelized.
It's a blur.
It's a blur. And then you can also do negative image, which is another function that's pretty cool. Instead of having it blacked out, you can do a negative image. And it also gives you color. You can just black it out black, white, yellow, blue, red, a block, and block out that area. So the next function is defect. What does that mean? So defect, when you go into the defect, you see DPC. What does that stand for? So it's defective pixel correction. Let me explain that a little better. During the process of making image sensor chip, things happen. We're talking about millions of pixels. So sometimes during the manufacturing process, some become faulty. Sometimes during the light exposure, they're not able to take in light correctly. So what DPC does is basically fix those pixels that it detects as bad, and it's going to correct them. So you're able to still keep that clear image and not have certain depixelized image. Sometimes in IP camera, you'll see that some of the images at nighttime look kind of like they're moving around, and the camera's trying to fix those pixels. This, in the same way, does that. And you have many options within it. So you can do, of white pixels, black pixels, and you're just able to do the AGC, sense up, different functions. Again, we went over those earlier within the pixelization correction.
So another one is adjust. So let's enter this menu. What do you see here?
So adjust is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. I'll go over each one just really quick, just so you guys, for those who aren't familiar with it. Sharpness, basically it's just accuracy, perception of the image. It's just going to clear it up a little better than it looks. Monitor, LCD and CRT. It's not really for these cameras, but it is there. So LSC, automatic lens shading correction. This automatically adjusts for dark areas, light areas. It's going to give you shade and not just black out a whole area. It's going to be able to give you perception within it, I mean. And the last one is video output. So there's two video outputs basically, PAL and NTSC. You can see the countries that use PAL. For the most part, the United States, we do use NTSC, and there's a couple other countries, mainly South America, who uses NTSC. The rest of the world does use PAL. So this is important if you have a job that's, you know, overseas or something like that. You're able to adjust the output of these cameras.
You have another question here. Does the mini PTZ also have the on-screen display, and is it a switch?
So our current ones have on-screen display that you control through the menu, just like regular PTZs. You call one of your presets, it gets you into the menu, and that's how you are able to work the camera.
Do you control the PTZ over coax?
Yes, that's one of the very important functions of the control over coax. You don't no longer need an RS-485 to control your PTZs.
Well, what about distance?
Same. It's all going to be controlled through the
same
distance.
Limited?
Not limited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you can get video, then you can get control. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. That's our webinar on the Angelo HD on-screen display, all the functions. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two on what to adjust, and depending on the light situation and the application that you guys are working on. Here's our information. If you guys have not started using our Bolides HD or Coax 1080 cameras and DVRs, you guys should. I've left here our email addresses. We also have going to have a recording of this webinar that's going to be available, and also we have uploaded videos on our YouTube channel. Meanwhile, we will be answering questions before we sign off. Yes, Louis. All right, yeah, we can send you an email. We can email you a video of this webinar. Definitely. If you guys want to share it to your team, your colleagues, whoever, well, we can definitely email it to you. And thanks for joining us, by the way. Do we have all of the styles in stock? Yes, everything is available today.
Yeah. And then if you guys have not experienced the control over coax, I recommend that you guys check it out. It's pretty interesting.
Another question: what video format is Angelo HD? TVI, CVI, SDI, AHD?
That's a good question. So the Angelos are AHD and 960H. On the other hand, the DVRs will accept a TVI, AHD, and 960H connection. So it's good to know. It's a good question.
Good question.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you next time.
Right. Thanks for joining us, and hope you guys learned something today, and we hope to see you at our next monthly webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.